Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, we're talking about my 2019 fantasy football 2-quarterback and SuperFlex strategies. So similar to last week in which I went over my 0 RB strategy going into mock drafts, I kind of want to give you guys my thought process on 2-quarterback and SuperFlex leagues. For those of you who have been around the channel for quite some time, you'll know that I'm a major proponent on the idea of playing with 2+ quarterbacks on a weekly basis. I think not only does that make fantasy football more competitive, it makes it that much more fun because there's more points to be had. And there's more strategy when it comes to mock drafts. So that's what we're going to be going over today. And before we get into that, I want to go ahead and remind you, if you guys haven't already, click that subscribe button. We are nearly at the 5,000 mark. That would be a huge feat for the community and the channel. So if you haven't already, this week's challenge, get past Bobby Wagner, middle linebacker of the Seattle Seahawks, and click that subscribe button if you haven't already. All right, let's go ahead and let's talk about some fantasy. Hey, you guys, let's talk about some 2-quarterback and SuperFlex strategy specifically. All right, so here's the thing about 2-quarterback and SuperFlex leagues. We're going to do mock drafts a little bit later in the video. If you'd like to just go to those immediately, there's timestamps down below for each mock draft that I will be conducting. But let's talk about specifically formats before we get into specific strategies. I personally believe that 12 teams for SuperFlex leagues should be the maximum. I think that should be the base for pretty much every league. I think every league minimum, in my opinion, should have 12 teams. It keeps it more competitive and also just makes it more fun because there's more of your friends, more competition to beat, and keeping it fair that way. But specifically for SuperFlex leagues, the whole thing is if you play with 2 starting available quarterbacks potentially, 4 teams in your league will not have a third quarterback on roster, So they won't have a backup quarterback. So what does that do? That forces players to, in their specific drafts, to go ahead and target quarterbacks way earlier. And what does that do? That leaves value like early running backs and wide receivers up for grabs, which if you go ahead and wait on a quarterback, you could potentially get rewarded with a player of likes of Antonio Brown sitting in the 3rd round potentially. Yes, I've seen that happen in SuperFlex leagues. So just to kind of give you my thought process behind that, I think 12 teams is the best format, and I think 6 point per passing touchdowns makes it even that much more competitive. Yes, it gives a lot of value to the quarterback position, but I mean, if you're going to have multiple quarterbacks, you might as well. But either way, it's all up to preference. Today's video will be probably 4 point per passing touchdown because fantasy pros just, I don't even know how their shit's set up, but either way. Let's talk about what's going to happen typically this season. As per usual in SuperFlex and 2-quarterback leagues, there are multiple quarterbacks taken in the 1st round. Given last year, it was Aaron Rodgers and it was Tom Brady, just gone quickly within the 1st round. And similar to this year, it's going to be Patrick Mahomes and Andrew Luck. I mean, that's just the given at this point. Patrick Mahomes coming off that 50 touchdown season, and then Andrew Luck coming off of a fantastic season, having missed the entire 2017 regular season due to that shoulder injury. So those 2 guys, those are excuse me, I don't know why I'm fumbling. Those are the 2 givens as of right now for SuperFlex League. So expect to see that a lot, and expect to, I don't know, I'll give you my strategy on whether or not you should take a quarterback that early. And let's talk about that specifically. Let's talk about the different combinations in which you can address specific drafts, right? Like I mentioned, taking a quarterback in the 1st round, even though I personally do not like that strategy, I think that if you can get Patrick Mahomes or Andrew Luck near the back end of the 1st round and pair them up with, per se, an RB1, I think that could be a decent strategy. I think that's the only position in which I want to draft an early quarterback, even in a 6 point per passing touchdown format. I think as of right now, the way the landscape kind of sits, I don't expect to see Patrick Mahomes throw another 50 touchdowns. I think he's going to obviously regress, but he's still going to stay at the top potentially, assuming obviously like a Tyreek Hill returns and or their wide receiver situation gets settled. But as of right now, I think obviously those are the top 2 talents at the quarterback position. Excuse me. I don't know what's that. Do I have a concussion? I don't know. Maybe it's just too hot in here. I'm sweating. The light's beaming down on me. Oh, goodness. All right. So what I meant to say is first round quarterbacks. It is a great strategy at times, but I think later on in the first round, it's probably the best way to go. I don't want to draft it early and then have to come back and potentially take a wide receiver with my second pick because the available running backs aren't like for sure RB1s. So that's the only concern as of right now for that spot, but we'll go over that strategy. Another one is going double quarterback. Now that is probably the most volatile thing that you can do for your fantasy team. Going through the first, give or take 35 picks until your next pick shows up, you'll have your two good quarterbacks. You can, in the end of the first round, pair up like a Deshaun Watson and Aaron Rodgers. That's not a bad combination, especially if they both perform highly this season. But then you're just going to lack at depth at the rest of the positions. Imagine having to fill out 2 more running back spots, a flex, 3 wide receivers, and a tight end. On top of those 2 quarterbacks, you're not going to have the best talent. You're going to have to depend on those quarterbacks on a weekly basis. So if you're okay with doing that, especially if you play in a 6-point per passing touchdown league in which you're getting guys that are throwing 3 touchdowns a week, like a Matt Ryan and Patrick Mahomes at the end of the first 2 rounds, okay, I can understand. I can see how that could be a viable option, but I would advise against it. We'll try it today. We'll see how it works. But anyway, another option. I think personally the best options as of right now is waiting on quarterbacks. I think what we'll see from today is waiting on quarterbacks is probably the most viable option because there are a lot of quarterbacks that are being extremely undervalued. Names that I want to throw out: Jared Goff, Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger, guys like Kirk Cousins, potentially, Tom Brady. Those specific 5 names, I think because of the fact obviously, like Tom Brady, Gronkowski's on, who's going to throw the ball? Sure, but he shouldn't be ranked at the 20th quarterback for the 2019 season. The guy has thrown nearly 30 touchdowns or scored 30 touchdowns a season since getting the starting job in New England. Is that going to disappear? I don't believe so. How is that going to disappear all of a sudden? People want to say Brady's going to disappear. He's getting too old. Doesn't look like he's going away anytime soon. A guy like Kirk Cousins threw 30 touchdowns last year. He's being ranked in like the mid-20s, like next to Andy Dalton. I mean, come on. Like those kind of players, Phillip Rivers, in like I think he's ranked like 16, 17. He's been throwing 30 touchdowns a season. What are we doing? But anyway, those are the kind of guys that you want to aim for later on in drafts. We'll try those late strategies. I think 2 of the best strategies is waiting about 3 or 4 rounds for your first quarterback, potentially being able to lock down like 2 RB1s, a solid wide receiver 1, and then follow it up with a pretty decent top 12 quarterback, a low end obviously, but that I think is the best strategy as of right now. Or you can wait extremely long, wait for the 5th or 6th round, grab back-to-back quarterbacks. If you're sitting on one of the edges, maybe like the 1st, 2nd, or 11th, 12th pick, those are also good strategies. Other than that, the only other strategy that we'll probably test today is drafting 4 quarterbacks. Now, the only thought process behind that is being able to take extra quarterbacks in order to kind of see how they pan out, similar to guys like Josh Allen, Sam Darnold, Lamar Jackson, guys that are going into their 2nd year that we know have a pretty good base value, but also have the potential of stepping up this coming season. We can take risks on those guys drafting 4 quarterbacks. Not only are you going to get an extra quarterback, you're going to screw over somebody else in your league for that 4th quarterback. And what that's specifically going to do is that's going to force them to have to come and perhaps ask you to trade. You'll get extra value out of that. You can go ahead and trade players later on in the season. If your league does not kind of trade very often, your commissioner is pretty strict on that kind of stuff. If your league's, kind of sworn off trading and really they don't participate in that much, it's probably not a best option to go for 4 quarterbacks. But specifically in leagues in which there's a lot of trading happening on a weekly basis, I think having a 4th quarterback as a trading piece pretty much is a viable option. And you never know, he might pan out and then he can become a starter and then trade away another piece, get an RB1 or a wide receiver 1. But either way, those are a couple of the strategies. We'll go ahead and go into that specifically in a little bit. Other than that, what do I want to pair up? If you go ahead and you take early quarterbacks such as Patrick Mahomes, you might want to just wait a couple rounds, pair him up with like a Rivers late, or take Andrew Luck early, pair him up with a Goff late. Take a Deshaun Watson early, pair him up with a Jameis Winston late. Those are the kind of things that I like right now. I think as of right now, what are we in June? Guys like Carson Wentz, Cam Newton, they're being extremely undervalued because of the fact, they're coming off injury. I'm not concerned about that. I'm probably one of the most optimistic person when it comes to injuries. I'm still on the Gurley train. We'll see. But either way, let's go ahead and test these out as of right now. Andrew's got to click a couple buttons here and there. All right. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's start mock drafting, shall we? Okay, we're here at fantasypros.com, but before we begin, I just wanted to go ahead. I know someone had dropped this link in one of the comment sections on an earlier video a couple weeks back. This is fantasyfootballcalculator.com, right? And I wanted to go and see if I can actually get a live mock draft with people in like a 12-team league for 2 quarterbacks. I wanted to see if I could get a live mock draft going or something. Obviously, there's only one person in this league, and you never know. They could just leave. I mean, it starts in 10 minutes. It could just be like a bot in there for all I know. So maybe later on this week, maybe next week, I'll definitely let you guys know. Maybe we can all join one of these leagues, have a mock draft, and I don't know, see what the results look like against an actual team. But either way, let's go ahead and close this. We'll go back to Fantasy Pros. Obviously, Fantasy Pros is not going to give us the exact outcomes every time. We're really getting computer generated outcomes, but that being said, it kind of gives us a pretty good idea on what we can expect based on their current ADPs. Obviously it can be adjusted, but I think as of right now, this is the best way to kind of figure it out outside of doing an actual draft. All right, so like I mentioned before, we're going to do SuperFlex. We'll go ahead and get one flex position here. We'll do half point PPR because that's my favorite. That's my stuff right there. 12-team league. Okay, so what are we going to try first? As of right now, I kind of want to show you guys what a late quarterback take kind of draft looks like. So specifically, I tend to, I don't know, the first 4 picks I think are really good at waiting on quarterbacks. And I'll specifically show you with the first overall pick. Obviously, starting off your draft with Saquon Barkley already has you head over heels ahead of the competition. Saquon Barkley is putting up as much points as quarterbacks on a weekly basis, so he's really lighting it up, and it kind of gives you a pretty decent advantage. So looking at what was taken, actually, we're not even going to talk about what's taken. I just got to adjust my draft board here so I can see the best available players. Let's close this really quickly so I can get more vision on this. All right, so looking at what's available. I'm going to wait on quarterbacks. I'm going to wait on other respective talent. I'm going to take Nick Chubb second. So boom, I got 2 RB1s potentially, or Nick Chubb could be a RB1 for the first first half of the season, and then when Kareem Hunt shows up, if he doesn't figure it out, then you still get an RB1 with Nick Chubb finishing strong. On top of that, what else do I want to do? I'll probably, again, as I'm waiting for the quarterback position, I'm going to go take a solid wide receiver 1, and boom, my first 3 picks of the draft, they look pretty solid, right? Any other league, you'd be thinking, what the heck just happened? How did you go ahead and steal those players? Now, the only thing is, I'm waiting on quarterbacks. What quarterbacks specifically? Let's look at the options. Jameis Winston, Jared Goff, Ben Roethlisberger, Prescott, Murray, Rivers, Jack. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Who am I specifically looking at? I like Goff. I like Rivers. Goff ended as the number 6 quarterback in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues last year. Rivers ended as the number 10, if I'm not mistaken, 10 or 12. No, it was definitely 10. There's other guys like Winston that can potentially have a pretty good season this year. We already know that what that offense is capable of doing. When they add Bruce Arians, they can even be better. Ben Roethlisberger being undervalued because of Antonio Brown's departure. Guys like Kirk Cousins, look down at 20. We have, 20 and 21, Brady and Kirk Cousins. So specifically, what am I going to do? I pick back-to-back here. I kind of want to take a quarterback. Honestly, I'm thinking I'm going to go double quarterback here. Solidify it with kind of the already steady roster I have and see how that goes. But specifically, I think I'm going to wait on my second quarterback. I feel like if I go ahead and just draft Goff right now, which I'm pretty confident in his play this coming season, and I can pair him up with another receiver, or perhaps maybe Marlon Mack as my flex position, I can wait and get another quarterback down here, see how that goes. So let's go ahead for right now. Let's take Goff because I specifically prefer him. If you like any of these other guys, go for it. No big deal. But then on top of that, I'm looking at the wide receiver depth that is on the board. I think I want to just go ahead and grab one more. Let me see. What has been going off the board as of late? Running backs have been kind of ripping off the board. I like Marlon Mack a lot, but he doesn't get enough work in the passing game. Devontae Freeman, another guy that's been pretty risky with injuries. Kerryon Johnson, he sits in a backfield with C.J. Anderson, Zach Zenner, Theo Riddick. That's kind of sketchy in itself. But either way, as of right now, looking at what's available, Stephon Diggs, let's just go ahead. Let's lock him up as my wide receiver 2 for right now. Let's see where this draft goes potentially. All right, a bunch of talent comes off the board. Not a big deal. All right, so what are we going to do as of right now with all of that taking place? We want to go ahead and probably pair up my second quarterback and then probably potentially a flex. I think the number 3 wide receiver spot can be filled by a plethora of guys. You can get guys later on in the draft, which we'll do specifically. Guys like Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Dante Moncrief, guys that are being extremely undervalued that can be the wide receiver 2s of their respective teams. And people are just kind of forgetting about them. So that kind of depth later on in the draft. But then again, there's guys like Christian Kirk, Cortland Sutton that are potentially the wide receiver 1s of their team. Corey Davis sitting here. But as of right now, what am I looking to draft? I kind of want to go ahead, as I mentioned, take a quarterback and a running back. I like Chris Carson. James White, James White's like a 12-point kind of guy per week with upside. If somebody gets injured, obviously. Tariq Cohen, similar. Montgomery, we're just uncertain about. So Chris Carson, we'll just go ahead. We'll lock him down as my flex position here. And then we'll follow that up with a quarterback selection. Of the available quarterbacks specifically, I prefer Phillip Rivers over the rest of the guys. That might be considered a reach, but not in my eyes. I'm going to pair up the 2 Los Angeles quarterbacks, and that'll be the end of that round. Honestly, looking at my team's construction as of right now, obviously I haven't put much effort into grabbing a tight end. There's still some pretty good talent here. Ebron, Ingram, Henry. 3 guys that are really good. I think David Njoku, Vance McDonald, respectively, undervalued at some points. Both guys that were top are potentially going to be top 10 tight ends this coming season. Obviously, that doesn't say much because the tight end position is a mess. But either way, just looking at my team, right? 3 solid running backs, 2 receivers that I like a lot, 2 quarterbacks I like a lot. All right, great. Now, where do we go with this next couple picks? When do I want to draft another quarterback? That's an idea that I just kind of want to go over. Looking at what's available, like Josh Allen as a 3rd quarterback, not bad, but do I really need him as of right now? Not really. I think I can go ahead and wait for a guy like Matthew Stafford, Sam Darnold, potentially Andy Dalton. I think Josh Allen presents a lot of value, but because I'm not going to be starting him on a weekly basis, I don't want to go ahead and waste the pick as of right now. I don't think it's technically a waste, but I think, Jared Goff week 9, Rivers week 12, there's not really much urgency until later on in the season. So looking at the available players, I really think James White can be a steal here. Looking at the available wide receivers, I think all of these guys kind of have, not all of them. Larry Fitzgerald probably has the most value, and then Cortland Sutton in my eyes. Sterling Shepard could be a wide receiver too. So there's still some pretty good wide receiver 3 upside to 2 low-end 2 value still on the board. But I don't know. I'm just going to go with James White as of right now. And then probably follow that up with a tight end. As of right now, Hunter Henry's on the board. Let me go ahead and scroll down. Where's the tight end position? Did I blatantly skip it? Or no, it's all the way down there. Okay, great. Here we are. I personally like, what the heck? Evan Ingram and Eric Ebron on the board available. Let's bring them both up to the queue. I think I personally like Evan Ingram just a little bit more than Eric Ebron this season. So we'll just go ahead and we'll lock him down just to kind of have some value there. All right, where did the draft go? Again, I want to, probably take my 3rd quarterback now. Looking at what's available, Sam Darnold, I have a lot of upside. These 3 guys, Sam Darnold, Matthew Stafford, Andy Dalton. I have confidence in those guys being the quarterback 3 of the team. I think on a 1-week kind of tear, they can figure it out. Or potentially I can end up trading them if they have better seasons than I anticipated. Looking at the wide receivers, who do I want to kind of target? Valdez-Scantling, like I mentioned. Moncrief's gone already. Guys like Kenny Stills, extremely undervalued. Looking at the rest of these guys, not in any extreme confidence in them. So don't worry about that. Looking at the running backs. Ronald Jones has a potential, but that's only with time. Matt Breida could be the RB1. Jerick McKinnon, you never know about. But anyway, I want to go ahead and probably lock down my third quarterback at this point and then pair it up with a wide receiver. So let's go ahead. Looking at the 3 quarterbacks on the board, honestly, I'd probably typically I'd go with Stafford, but I don't know about Darnold. Is Darnold going to be able to turn it around this season with the off? No, I'm just going to go with Stafford. We'll lock down my third quarterback. Does not share a bye week with my other 2 QBs, no big deal. Looking at the available wide receivers, I'm not really too hot on some of these guys, so I'm just going to hope they don't get taken off the board, and I'm going to take a guy like Ronald Jones just for depth's sake. I always like to have some good running back depth, even though I already have a lot of talent on the board. Did the wide receivers all go? Like literally all of them? Yeah, they did. No big deal. That's how it works. But either way, let's go ahead and make a couple more picks here. Robert Foster could be decent later on. What else is there? Zay Jones still on the board. Traquan Smith could figure it out. Either way, all of these guys, their arguments, they all have their own arguments. Let's just look at the team's structure as of right now. Actually, I need one more wide receiver. That was probably a mistake going Ronald Jones. So what if we go back and we go ahead and just pair up a third wide receiver here? Let's just throw, let's say, let's throw like Kenny Stills. Let's just grab Kenny Stills at this point. Okay. Now that we have a full kind of starting lineup, we can evaluate this team. Looking at what we have, again, I really do like the 2 solid QB1s. I know a lot of people, for some reason, really down on both these guys. That should not be the case. Saquon, Nick Chubb, 2 solid RBs, and then you follow that up with the flex Chris Carson and James White off the bench. And then you've got some pretty good wide receivers. I think Kenny Stills, obviously, that's where you're going to take your little bit of a hit. You could either wait on, or you can either take an early wide receiver and wait on a tight end. I drafted Evan Ingram to kind of fill in that spot. I could have potentially waited. But either way, looking at this team, not bad waiting on quarterbacks. I think the structure of this team, not half bad. And I honestly like this draft. So let's go ahead. Let's move back. Let's get out of this draft. And let's go ahead and try a different strategy here. Let's go ahead and try drafting a quarterback within the first round. I know, like I mentioned, I personally like doing it at the end of the first. Do I want to go double QB? Let's just try this. For those of you who are considering taking a guy like Patrick Mahomes with your number 1 overall pick, let's go ahead and let's test this. So I think he's going about the 5th pick right now. I don't know where he went in that last draft. So I think he's going about the 5th pick. This is going to be tough. I'm telling you, I'll show you. Oh, there goes Patrick Mahomes. So obviously, Andrew's going to restart that because he wants to make sure that Patrick Mahomes is his starting quarterback. So we're going to do that again. Here we go. 5th pick. Come on, baby. Roll the dice. All right, beautiful. Now we want to set it up properly. Okay, so we'll take Mahomes first. Let's say, for example, this is where I generally see him coming off boards in actual 6-point per passing touchdown, SuperFlex 2 QB leagues. Number 5 is where he'll probably come off the board. If not 6, 7, 8, respectively, depending on how your league is constructed. Now that I've taken him as my first overall pick, right, I could go ahead. I could pair him up with another quarterback and lock down Watson and Mahomes as my first 2 picks. But look at the running backs that are available. The top 11 running backs, according to Pro Football Focus, Fantasy Pros, are gone. Now, that hurts a lot considering, as of right now, I'm looking at the available running backs. Sure, Nick Chubb can be my RB1, but comparatively to the last draft, he was my RB2. I didn't have to put as much stock into him or rely upon him as much on a weekly basis as I'd have to do at this point. So, so that's a little bit sketchy. Looking at available wide receivers, Juju, Antonio, okay, sure. Those are decent valued guys as of right now. But how do I want to construct this team going forward? I probably want to lock down a running back and then follow it up with another wide receiver and then wait on quarterback. So let's go ahead and try that. Let's go ahead and take a guy like, I'm going to take Nick Chubb because I'm actually concerned that he's going to come off the board. If he does, I personally don't want a Marlon Mack or a Fournette as my first as my RB1. I don't want that. I think those two guys not getting a lot of work in the passing game, injury prone. I'm not about that. So as of right now, we're just gonna take Nick Chubb with the second overall pick of this team. Blah blah blah. Picks go. Okay. So looking at what's available now, I probably want to link this up with a wide receiver here and see how that goes. We'll take Keenan Allen. All right. First 3 picks, not terrible, honestly. I think this team's looking decent. All right, now, what do we have to do? We could go quarterback, but I don't think you need to do that. I think we can wait for a guy like Rivers. I'm telling you, we can wait for a guy like that. Potentially even wait for a guy like Brady. All right, but for right now, we want to go ahead and stack up our depth on this team. Looking at what's available, I like the idea of, do I like Kerryon Johnson more than I like Josh Jacobs? That's a good question. But what I do like for sure is Brandon Cooks. The question is whether or not these guys will still be available. What am I willing to live with? I think I'm willing to live with the idea of kind of waiting and maybe getting a Lockett or a Cup instead of giving up one of these running backs. So who am I going to go with as of right now? I'm concerned about the running back situation for both of those teams. They're playing pretty tough divisions defensively against the run. I don't know. Maybe let's just go Josh Jacobs. That's my RB2. Why not? Let's do it real quick. All right. Now, like I mentioned, we're going to follow it up with a guy like Lockett. I think I'm just pretty comfortable with that. Just to go ahead and lock down my wide receiver 2 here. So let's do that. Let's lock him up. Looking at the available quarterbacks really quickly, just in case. Drew Brees, Cam Newton, 2 good values still left on the board. Don't think you need to take them, but if you felt like you really needed to have one of those 2 guys, you sure as hell could. But let's go ahead and take Lockett here. Just looking at the team's construction, I mean, I do like the other team way more, but you never know. This could... Okay, let's look at what's available now. Still, we are in the 6th round, and Drew Brees is still on the board. I have a hard time passing that up, especially at what's available, or at least what's remaining. I think if I can go ahead and grab Drew Brees right now, lock him up with a guy like Cohen or White at my flex spot, that's not bad. So honestly, sitting in this 6th round, I did not expect him to still be sitting here. Let's go ahead. Let's lock this up. Let's lock down a guy like Drew Brees right now. All right, so now that we've done that, what's available? David Montgomery, James White, Corey Davis. Those are 3 guys I'm pretty comfortable with. Eric Ebron, Jared Cook, Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry, I could live without him. So looking at what's available, I want to go ahead. I want to lock down my flex spot before I go ahead and touch my wide receiver 3. So specifically, David Montgomery or James White. Listen, we already got one. Oh my goodness. We're going to go with a double rookie running back comp. That's not terrible. Honestly, if they both end up panning out, it could be decent. But either way, this is all subjective. You could have a specific guy you like more than a David Montgomery. You can go with him. It's not a big deal. All right, so looking at what just happened, right? I went David Montgomery. James White is still on the board. That is fantastic. Along with that, Cortland Sutton, Will Fuller still on the board. I don't mind Will Fuller as my wide receiver 3 at all. Looking at the tight end position, Jared Cook is still there. That's not a bad pickup either. But as of right now, do I want to go ahead and lock down a guy like James White for my flex spot? Not really. To be honest, let's just lock down a wide receiver and a tight end. So what's going to go first? I'm sure Fuller will come off the board before. So let's lock down Fuller as my... wow. Are they really going to let me do this? Okay. I'm going to just play with this draft real quick. Let's just walk through these motions. Let's see if we can play with this really quickly. See if I went in like rapid succession, looking at what's available. Okay, we'd probably lock down this guy later. But as of right now, looking at what's available, okay. We do similar to like last draft, take a quarterback as like my second or first bench player. Okay, let's look at this team's construction. Maybe we just lock down a tight end right now. I think I had Vance McDonald somewhere up here now. Where did I have him? I swear. Maybe he came off the board. Yeah, Vance McDonald. Let's go ahead Let's put him on this team. Okay, so looking at this team's construction as of right now, okay? As a starting lineup, not as bad as I thought it was going to be, but there's a lot of reliance on some lower tier running backs. And that's what you're forced to do. If, in fact, you take a quarterback early, you're going to have to rely on guys like Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, David Montgomery. Sure, I could have went running back earlier. I could have made Fournette or Marlon Mack my RB1. But specifically, I thought guys like Jacobs, Montgomery, they have the potential of being a higher upside RB2. And along with Nick Chubb being the potential of being at solid RB1 this coming season. So looking at the rest of this team, wide receivers, honestly, that's not a bad group of wide receivers. As a full unit, not terrible if Will Fuller can stay healthy, of course. But otherwise, not terrible at all. Two solid quarterbacks, though. That's really the bread and butter of this team. Being able to get Mahomes in the first and then follow it up in the sixth with the Drew Brees, that's just fantastic. So that's not a bad draft at all. Not a bad strategy. I honestly didn't expect it to go that well, to be honest. So let's go ahead and let's see here. We went with an early pick in which we waited a while for quarterbacks, stocked them up. We also went with a first-round quarterback. What if we go double quarterbacks, right? Let's go with like a ninth round. Ninth round? Let's go see if we sit in let's go with the ninth pick. Because I know a lot of people don't specifically like the ninth pick. This is going to be rough. I'm telling you, going double quarterback, it's got its weaknesses, to say the least. Wow, okay. So if you're going to let me go double quarterback, sure, I will take Mahomes first. And I'll follow that up with Andrew Luck. Oh my God. Okay, so we're in the perfect timeline. Andrew's locked down two absolute studs at the quarterback position. I have my number one and my number two quarterback already on roster. Fantastic. Now, how can we build around said players in order to have the best fantasy lineup? Specifically, looking at what's on the board. Running backs and wide receivers, they're going to go really soon. Looking at what's available specifically, I want to lock down running backs. I don't want to have to worry. So I'm going to take Marlon Mack. We're going to take him right here. We'll see where we go with the next. Okay, the wide receiver run is coming. These four guys are taken. A lot of wide receivers are going to go, but specifically, I think I want to go ahead. Looking at the talent, again, I'll wait. Actually, if I don't have an actual solid wide receiver one and I just have a bunch of wide receiver twos sitting on roster, that's pretty rough. I think I can wait. So what we'll do here, we'll take like a guy like Stephon Diggs. We'll lock him up as my solidified wide receiver one. Kind of rough. I understand, but that's the strategy you go with when you take early two quarterbacks, right? We have to scramble. All right, let's go ahead and fill up some more positions here. It's really not looking that bad. I'm literally not going to take a third quarterback until, for a while. So looking at what's available. Kerryon Johnson, great. Phillip Lindsay, great. Kenyon Drake, great. Those three guys specifically, I like them all. Wide receivers, I like Tyler Boyd, but as a wide receiver too, I mean, honestly, yeah, I could live with that. DJ Moore, Corey Davis, Mike Williams is a 3 potentially, and then Pettis, Fuller. Okay, we filled up this little bit of a queue here. But specifically, I want to go ahead and lock down a running back. So, Kerryon Johnson, Kenyon Drake, Phillip Lindsay. Give me Kerryon Johnson. All right, the players are going. All right, also, do I want to go ahead and grab a wide receiver too here? Looking at to be honest, with James White always being available as like a flex pickup, I think I'm going to go ahead. We're going to solidify a little bit of a wide receiver too here. I know, if honestly, gun to my head, I'd probably go Kenyon Drake here. But I'm extremely afraid of the wide receiver depth just disappearing. So we have to go with a Tyler Boyd here as a wide receiver too, specifically because the draft is going away from us, as you saw. All right, Kenyon Drake is still sitting there. Thank you, fantasy gods. So I will go ahead and I will take that. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. All right, and then obviously, where's the tight end position? Evan Ingram and Eric Ebron, the two E's. Easy. All right, no big deal. Wide receiver position, I like guys. I'm telling you, sitting at one of these guys is my wide receiver 3 I can live with. Specifically, Will Fuller, that's okay. Do I want a Will Fuller or do I want a solid tight end on a weekly basis? Specifically, I'd probably take the tight end, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and lock down an Evan Ingram. All right, the picks are going up from me. Okay, there go all the wide receivers that I planned on taking. No big deal. Okay, Curtis. No. I'd rather have like a D.D. Westbrook as my wide receiver 3, specifically because he's the top receiver on his team. Okay, looking at this team's kind of construction as of right now. Potentially, was there a running back that went in that last before I picked D.D.? Yeah, no, I'm okay with that. That's fine. Whatever. Okay. Take it or leave it. It's doable. Patrick Mahomes and Andrew Luck in the first round. Pretty good. You follow that up with 3 solid RB2s right now. Mac, Johnson and Drake. I think all 3 of them, they should be RB2s this season. Now, you're not going to get you might get one of these guys having a 20-point week every now and then, but you're not getting your McCaffrey, 25 a week kind of performance. And that's what you're going to invest in. That's why you took Mahomes and Luck, because each of those guys, if they're scoring 3 touchdowns apiece, 6 point per passing touchdowns, they're going to make up for it potentially. On top of that, we addressed wide receiver. We have Stephon Diggs, Tyler Boyd, who's being extremely undervalued comparatively to what he was able to do last season. I know Tyler Boyd with A.J. Green on the field, not as efficient, but when A.J. Green was on the field, he saw more targets, had more receptions than A.J. Green. Imagine that. So you see where Andy Dalton was kind of targeting last season. Evan Ingram, pretty good there. D.D. Westbrook, give it or take it or leave it. Not bad. I think that went better. Another draft that went better than I fully anticipated in a strategy like this, in which I took 2 early quarterbacks, 2 first-round quarterbacks potentially. Where would I go with my 3rd quarterback pick potentially? I wouldn't mind taking a guy like Dalton, like in the next 2 picks. But to be honest, you don't really have to. I'd probably go Dwayne Haskins. Get a guy that is really not going to see play for a couple weeks, or potentially just don't even draft a 3rd quarterback. But honestly, because of the fact that this guy is a bye week in 6, you'd probably want to go ahead and draft like Andy Dalton, Marcus Mariota, whatever bye week lines up. But either way, not a bad draft at all. I thought it went better than anticipated. I honestly thought going double QB, not the best. But again, it really depends. Whatever team you build, as long as you can avoid injuries and you can go ahead and attack the waiver wire the best you possibly can, you can turn any team into a gem of a team. And it just really depends how much commitment you put into it. That's really what it is. All right, looking at this, what else have we not done as of right now? How about we wait on quarter? Let's take the 3rd round quarterback approach as our last draft here, as our last mock draft for today. We're gonna pick at 7. That seems about right. Okay. We're gonna go early running back. Potentially. Okay. Let's see what's available. Okay. DeAndre Hopkins is on the board. Thank you very much. I'll take it. We'll go early wide receiver in that case. All right. It came back to us. Where do we want to follow this up with? We're going to wait for a 3rd round quarterback, by the way. So what are we going to follow this up? I'll take Joe Mixon. No big deal. I like that. That's pretty good 2-1-2 punch. The 7th pick, not bad at all. Now, looking at what's available at the quarterback position, at this point, I could probably wait. But considering I want to do this... Damn it, where did the wide receivers go? Why did it shove it down? Considering I kind of want to go with 3rd round quarterback, I'm gonna stick with the program. Okay, we'll take Drew Brees here, even though I could have made this look like a better draft if I took Ertz right now, but that's not the point. We're gonna just try to test this, grab a 3rd round quarterback strategy. So we do so by taking Drew Brees. Now, where do we follow that up with? Potentially Stephon Diggs, O.J. Howard. Not really. Okay, so I want to go ahead and lock down another running back. I kind of like Marlon Mack here as my RB2, comparatively to RB1 like last round. So we'll go ahead and lock down a guy like Marlon Mack. Yep, and now here comes the wide receiver run. In that breath, I will go ahead and draft a wide receiver because they're beginning to fly off the board. I like guys like Galladay, Kupp, Lockett. I also like guys like Landry sitting down here, who will probably be gone by the time I draft. So let's go ahead and take a guy like Kenny Galladay, who will be the wide receiver one of that respective team this coming season. What else is left available? I don't want Alshon Jeffrey. I really don't need a wide receiver 3 at this point. What do I need? I need a quarterback. Okay, that's pretty good value. And I need a running back for my flex position. So what do I want to go with first? I think I can live with a lot of these guys that are left on the board. So I want to go ahead and lock down my flex position, which will be Phillip Lindsay. And then once it comes back to me here, I will go ahead and I will lock down my next. Maybe I should just wait. Should I just wait? No, I kind of really want Rivers, to be honest. Looking at this team's depth, if I was to draft right now a wide receiver, I mean, is Pettis going to really deliver me that much value in comparison? Is Rivers that much better than Brady? Is Rivers that much better than Kirk Cousins? Really, we're splitting hairs, to be honest, because that's what it is. I think Rivers not that much better. Yes, maybe 15 points better by the end of the season. What is that? It's a point a week. It's not gonna make or break your season. That's the thing about these quarterbacks. They're very, very close in value in comparison to, like, maybe if I draft a tight end right now, he might end up being a top 5 guy. That could be a huge difference comparatively to waiting and getting a bum later on in the draft. But it's all relative, I guess. Looking at what's available, I don't want another flex. So I either want a quarterback, I want a wide receiver. Looking at the available wide receivers, not really impressed. So let's just go ahead and we'll just take that Phillip Rivers pick here. We got the 2 old veteran quarterbacks. We've come back around here. Considering I drafted a guy like Will Fuller earlier, you know what, to be honest, I personally I want running back depth this draft. So let's take a guy like Tariq Cohen, a nice PPR stud like that. And then we'll follow that up with, let's see here. Where's the tight end position looking like? Okay, that's fine. Honestly, I can live with that. David Njoku, Austin Hooper, I can live with those 2. We throw like a guy like, is that a good wide receiver 3? Let's looking at the values here. Let's try Larry Legend, man. I'm just throwing some lineups together. I'm just off the top of my head, we throwing some stuff together here. Maybe we go ahead and we draft a guy like, okay, whatever. Let's look at this lineup really quickly. Going with a 3rd-round quarterback strategy, my first 2 picks were Mixon and Hopkins. Not bad. Following it up with Breeze. Honestly, that's a solid top 3 picks. Just as solid as anybody or any trio that I've had as of today. Following it up with Marlon Mack and Phillip Lindsay as other running backs, and then Kenny Galladay, Larry Fitz. Honestly, and then the 2 quarterbacks, man, these lineups look good. Now, obviously, a lot of the lineups, the biggest thing is like drafting late in drafts. I'll probably do another video in the coming weeks talking about just the bench, like just how to strategize where to go with bench, who to take, who my breakout guys, sleepers, hidden gems. So we'll do that in the coming weeks. But just looking at the construction of this lineup, another good one. Honestly, I think there's pretty much no going wrong with some of these strategies. You'll get people that just blindly come in with no strategy and they'll just take the best available at each time. No big deal. But you have to be careful, because if you do that, and you might end up with a guy like, Derek Carr as one of your starting quarterbacks, or perhaps a guy like, to be honest, I could live with Trubisky. He's on the thumbnail. I could live with him, honestly. He played 14 games last season. I think he was the number 14 quarterback. Like, that's pretty insane. But he did have that one inflated 6 touchdown game. That being, I think it was a 50-point plus fantasy game. I think it was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Okay, anyway, I'm going to keep ranting. I want to stop myself now. Thank you, everybody, for watching. If you haven't already, like the video. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, hit me up down below. If you've just got a toxic comment, you can go fuck yourself. And thank you, everybody, for watching. And until next time, which will probably be tomorrow or Saturday, I'll do another live mock draft or something like that, or another one of these strategy videos. Maybe some sleeper, maybe some hidden gems. I don't know. It just depends on what thumbnail I want to make in Photoshop. Thank you, everybody, and until next time, see ya.